If we kind of made a definition for our comfort zone, we could kind of say it's, what we're used to doing or what we're used to experiencing. And so anytime we have a new experience, that was kind of outside of what we're used to, that's when it might make us kind of nervous to see or do whatever's going on. So, whether that's, climbing a high tree or sailing in heavy air, or if you're a little older, maybe it was the first time you drove a car. So all those things that it's something brand new we've never done before. And it's kind of natural to feel nervous there when you don't really know what to expect. Maybe probably the two biggest things that might make us feel nervous in that kind of situation is either we really don't know what's going to happen, or we are worried that something bad might happen, right? So kind of working through, how can we prevent or work through those two feelings. So one kind of interesting thing we could think about here is our comfort zone might go in either direction. And what I mean by that is maybe we are more of like a timid person, and so stepping up to something new is kind of frightening. But maybe we're also maybe we're the type of person that just kind of likes to rush into everything, and so maybe slowing down is the sort of thing that doesn't make us nervous, but is just a different experience, and we have to get used to it. So maybe an example we could come up with is, if you have somebody doing some sort of martial arts, the more timid person is they can kind of they'll learn all the kicks or strikes or whatever, but when they're going to spar against somebody, or it's nerve-wracking to just kind of go up there where you got to kind of defend yourself from the strikes that somebody's sending against you. But maybe on the other end of the spectrum, you have somebody who that really doesn't bother them, so they have no trouble getting all the kicks down and everything, and they're ready to go right at the other person, and they're just hitting all over. I don't do any martial arts, you might be able to tell, but their problem might be that they kind of just go in and they're not really thinking, and they realize that the other person can just kind of dodge a little bit and kind of watch what's going on, and then they can get them with something that they don't have time to block because they're not thinking about blocking. They're just kind of going full speed ahead. And so you could kind of have those two opposite ends of the spectrum. I think we can probably think of a couple of examples of sailors like that on either ends, of the ones that are a little more timid to get started, and then the ones that are ready to jump right in. But if they want to be able to kind of focus and improve on the different skills they have, they need to kind of tone back from just the full speed ahead all the time to be able to, focus more on the skills they're trying to learn. So both of those are kind of examples of we have to push ourselves outside our comfort zone, in the sense that the comfort zone is what we're used to experiencing. So, we might be nervous, or we might have to kind of slow ourselves down depending on who we are. It's going to be kind of a sliding scale, right? So when the example I used was, you're out it's your first time in heavy air. In your mind, your definition, maybe the first time you've sailed in 10 knots of wind, that's more wind than when you took all those summer classes and it was just drifting along. And it was fun then, just kind of drifting around. It was cold, it was neat. But now your boat is moving around pretty fast, and like I've got to be paying attention all the time, and I'm going to run into somebody, and what if I capsize? And then eventually you get used to that. But now we're going out in 15 knots, and now it's more. So we're constantly kind of expanding on what we are comfortable in, what we are used to. If believe it or not, I was the really timid person growing up. When I got into high school sailing, that was me. In 10 knots, I was like, I can't do this. I'm only crewing. I'm not going to skipper. And so it took me a long time to actually work up to the point where I was comfortable, dealing with that sort of stuff. And now obviously I've moved quite beyond that. So I guess the point there would be that definitely you by pushing your boundaries, you can expand to the point where something that was scary at first becomes not just not just that you can deal with it, but you enjoy it, and you'd like to have those experiences again. So that's one of the things that can kind of help you is if you're nervous about going into something, like think forward. Is this something that I want to be able to either do or enjoy or whatever it is? And if it is, then we do have to take that first step, and then there'll be a second step after it that is maybe the same size as the first, but because we got that first step, now we know the motion, and so we can take the second step, and then the third is the same size again. But we're used to stepping forward by now, and so now it's a little less difficult. And so as you keep taking those steps, they get less and less difficult as you get more used to it. Once you've capsized the first time on that roll tack, you realize it's really not that bad. And so next time it's still not very pleasant to fall in the water off the top of the boat, but we've already done it once, so why not a second time? A little bit of like mental competition can help. So in the sense of like Joey is going out there, and I know that I am just as capable of controlling the boat as Joey is. When we do tack on the whistle, and he and I are about the same, and he's going out there, he's ready, he's willing to do it. So I can too, and that sort of thing. Kind of using the example or the encouragement of others, whether by their actions or by their words, to kind of help you, encourage you to step out there and do whatever it is that's making you nervous. And then kind of similarly with that, kind of like facing whatever fear it is. If this is something that makes us nervous, what if I run into something? What if I capsize? Kind of think through like, what's going to happen? Well, if I do that roll tack and I capsize, I'm in the water. Well, the coach boat's right there, and if there's if anything actually goes wrong, they're right there to help me out. The obvious easy example is that this is heavy air or something like that. It's certainly not going to be very smooth at first. A lot of that sort of thing is just getting more experience with it, and so we have to go through that experience and capsize many times because we didn't ease the main sheet, or we didn't jibe the right way, we didn't keep the boat stable. It's going to happen a lot, but again, we know that it's something we need to work through in the end, and we can think through and what if this happens? Well, it's actually not going to be that bad. So the kind of the feeling of nervousness is good to remind you to think through, is this a good idea? And if we're in a safe situation, then there's no problem with pushing ourselves forward.